Hi there, this is Alan. This is the Discovering Buddhism program presented on behalf of Vajrayana Institute, and we're up to our fifth subject called Death and Rebirth. Death and Rebirth. So this module will go for 3 weeks, and just noticing people there, that's very good. Thanks for being there. Wonderful. So 3 weeks for Death and Rebirth. I think normally it's taught in 4 weeks, but because of Christmas, we have to stop the week before Christmas. So we'll be able to, I think, get through the materials in 3 weeks. Interesting subject. Part of the Lamrim. Hi, Stacey. Thank you. Good to see you there. So it's number 5, subject number 5 out of 13. So hopefully we'll be able to get through next year, get through the rest of the subjects by the middle of the year. So usually about a month for each subject. Vajrayana Institute shuts down from Christmas up until the first week of February. So there'll be no classes during that period. So let's, as always, spend, say, 5 minutes doing a breathing meditation, mindfulness meditation, just to settle our mind after the day and to get in the right frame of mind for the teachings, and maybe doing a meditation at the end of the teaching. So just get comfortable, sitting, lying down. The main thing is to be relaxed. And what we're doing is just using the breath, breathing meditation. The breath is the object of our attention. No need to change the breath, no need to judge it. We're just using the breath to calm the mind, give the mind a very simple task, and to allow it to just disconnect from the usual conceptualizing and conversations that normally happen in our busy mind and in the busy world. Right, so let's begin. So we begin by just bringing our attention to our inner world. Have a sense of letting go what's happened during the day. A moment to appreciate how lucky we are to be able to come together like this and to study the teachings of the Buddha. And to be able to also do some meditation. We're doing our study, meditation, practice of Buddhism, not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others. The Mahayana motivation is that ultimately our aim is to become an enlightened being, to be able to benefit all other beings. Now we just come into our body, making sure we're comfortable. The spine needs to be straight, evenly balanced. The body's evenly balanced on the chair or the floor. Eyes can be closed or just gazing ahead. We begin by using the out-breath to relax, breathe out any tension in the body. With each out-breath, have a sense of letting go all the physical tension in the body. Letting go all the busyness in the mind. feeling the weight of the body, the gentle pull of gravity into the earth, surrendering to the earth. Time to let go. And just gradually giving attention to the breath, the gentle rhythm of the breath in the body. While we're focusing on the breath, we're also just spying and looking at what we're doing. It's called introspection. If we notice we've wandered off the object, distracting thoughts, sounds, just notice that. Gently let go of the distraction and patiently come back to the breath again and again. Staying with the breath, full flow of the in-breath, full flow of the out-breath. Okay, just relax. So just to outline, just looking at the outline, hopefully you got the materials that I sent out on yesterday, was it, or the day before? Saturday, I think. So there are quite a few materials. Don't think that you have to read every page, but probably the better selection, the more different sources, the better. So there are the notes for tonight. First of all, there's the outline, which just tells you what we're doing week by week. With the readings at the bottom there. So basically, excuse me, just have a sip of water. So probably the main one, the most important readings are the course readings that come with the actual module. What have we got? Eight different writers, eight different teachers there, from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Lama Yeshe, Geshe Rabden, and Geshe Dargi. So a good selection of extracts of teachings from those teachers. The first three are very brief, just maybe a few pages each, so they're good for introduction. And then the second bundle of stuff is the transcript of Nicholas Rebush's teachings on the topic death and rebirth. This is quite a lot. It's probably close to 100 pages, but he teaches the topic over 6 weeks, and he's also included, I think, half a dozen meditations at the back there, some of which we'll do. And Nicholas Rebush, excellent teacher. He is the main editor of Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. So he was a monk for many years. And now his main job is to produce books and transcripts and so on of particularly Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, the main teachers of the FPMT group, which runs Vajrayana Institute and many other centres around the world. So yes, that's definitely worth a look. He's got a really good, he used to be a medical doctor, Nick Rebush. He has very good, having been an editor, a book editor for so long, he has a very good way of using words. Then the next one, The Foundation of Buddhist Practice. That's a book, one of these books from the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, fairly recently come out, Volume 2. These are teachings by His Holiness the Dalai Lama that he's given over the years, edited by Thupten Chodron, a nun very close to His Holiness. And they're specifically produced for Westerners. So His Holiness is teaching the Lam Rim, which is what the Discovering Buddhism course is teaching, the basic Buddhist teachings called the Lam Rim. He's teaching it for Westerners, so not to Tibetan monks or Tibetan, not in a monastic context, but to lay people from the West. So it's very clear, and it's extremely good source, but probably more detail than we need in Discovering Buddhism, but good source to have. How to face death without fear. This is probably the most comprehensive of all the books by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, edited by Rabina Korten, very famous teacher, nun in the FPMT organisation, and it's a collection of all Lama Zopa's teachings on death and rebirth, with many texts, many practices. It came out probably about 5 years ago with a title called How to Enjoy Death. And this is a updated version of it, and good thing to have. It has really good section on how to help others. If we've got friends or relatives who are dying, practices, mantras, prayers that will help them at the time of death. Next is just a link to the FPMT education website. There's what they call, I think it's a death and dying package for ourselves, our own experiences of if we're having going through a death experience of dying. And then there's also part of it is to help others who are going through either the death process or the grieving process as well. Good source there, all digital. But I think you can actually buy the hard copy as well. And then there's a few other books there that are definitely worth having a look at. Life, Death and After Death by Lama Yeshe. He's one of my favourite teachers. He has this wonderful gift of language, of getting right to the heart of the teachings without any technical language. Wonderful. So that's the reading list. And I also sent out for new students, I think it was Introduction to Discovering Buddhism. And I think there's a updated reading list for the whole course. As always, if anyone's new or you know anyone who might be interested in doing the course, the Discovering Buddhism, joining us, my email address there in the chat column. And so anyone who wants to join the mailing list and get the materials every week, just drop me an email. Okay, so just looking at the notes for today, it starts off with a quote from a prayer that by Lam Tsongkhapa. This is a prayer that at most centres will be recited. It's called the Foundation of All Good Qualities. So it's a tradition really before a geshe, a qualified ordained teacher, or not necessarily ordained. It's just if there's teachings being given at a higher level, fully qualified teacher, then they recite the Foundation of All Good Qualities, which is actually just a summary of the Lam Rim in just a few pages. Probably only takes a few minutes to recite. And this part of the prayer, life is impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just as a shadow follows the body, the rots of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction of this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest of negativities, and to accomplish all virtuous deeds. So that is, in a nutshell, what I'm on about tonight, particularly the first half tonight, where we're looking at what's the point of contemplating death? Basically, to focus the mind. Often if we haven't got this knowledge of impermanence and that we can die at any moment, no matter what our age, then we tend to think that we'll live forever. It's even intellectually, we can, oh yes, of course everybody dies, you can see that. But it doesn't really go very deep, because in the next breath we start planning as if we're going to live forever. We're definitely going to live today. We sort of plan the day out. We're definitely going to live next week, and we've got all these appointments. We're definitely going to live for next year when we can travel again and live a post-COVID life. So actually in the practical way of thinking, unless we're Dharma students and we can sort of integrate the awareness of death into our way of thinking, then we can fritter away life and forget the certainty of death and the uncertainty of time of death. So as His Holiness says, that first quote actually comes from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I should have actually put that there. The aim is not to terrify yourself thinking about death, but to remind us of the special opportunities of life as a human being. We need to accept death as a part of living. So contemplating death doesn't mean we're actually thinking about the actual process of dying constantly. That would be pointless. We do get to that later in the next few weeks, but it's to be aware that this existence that we've got could end at any moment. So make the most of the time we've got. Set our priorities. Don't fritter away our life on meaningless things, because what is called, they call them the 8 worldly Dharmas. Basically, they're the distractions that we all are kind of drawn to. The good experiences, pleasurable sensations, good food, good company, success, good reputation. These things that basically most people who aren't practicing any kind of spiritual path devote their whole life to. So this is to sober up the mind and realize that those distractions are not actually going to help at the time of death, and they won't actually help to make our life meaningful in the time we've got. So part of this way of helping us to focus the mind and do some practice is to realize that we've got how this human body is pretty unusual, incredibly rare, and how it can, as it says in the verse above, how it can finish just as the shadow follows the body, the rods of black and white colour follow. So it's impermanent as a water bubble. They often use these lovely images of water bubbles, clouds, flashes of lightning, these very temporary phenomena in the natural world to compare to our own life. Just even though we might be fortunate enough to live 80 or 90 years, in the scheme of things, it's regarded as very short compared to how long existences in other realms can be. So, so part of this contemplating this death is to contemplate that this human body is completely unique and it's not going to last very long. So it's called the precious human rebirth. We have done this in previous modules where I've just sort of outlined the main points, that being born human is such a privilege because we have a human brain, which means that we can use reasoning. If you compare the existence of other realms such as animals, which are in front of us every day, we've got that as a very physical reminder of different realms of existence. And then there are realms we can't see, the lower realms, which are there, and in which there's such incredible great suffering. The cold hells, they call them, where everything is incredibly freezing. We're completely consumed with cold, hot hells. And there's a realm called the hungry ghost realms, where people are constantly in search of food and never can get enough to eat. This sense of craving for food. So these other realms are possibilities. Now we'll come back to how we can be sure of this using different techniques and reasonings and so on. But just to contemplate how not only being born human, but we're actually born in a place where the teachings of Buddha are available in a language we understand. This wasn't possible even 50 years ago, before Buddhism. Tibet became overridden by the Chinese, and Tibet, the great teachers such as the Dalai Lama left Tibet, and the great benefit for the Western world was that the teachings came to the West, and some of those great teachers from Tibet actually kindly decided to start teaching Westerners, such as Lama Zopa Lama Yeshe in our organisation. So only if we'd been born 100 years ago, or 50, even 50, well, I was born 50 years ago, so, or more, if 100 years ago in Australia there was actually no possibility of attending a Buddhist centre and receiving teachings on Buddhism. Maybe if you went overseas and travelled to different countries, but even then, very unlikely you'd get teachings in English and so on. So we have this incredible opportunity, human body, perfect that has the Dharma, has relatively calm political situation and freedom of religion. So we can actually spend our time, our leisure time, which most of us do have some of. We don't have to spend our whole life working. This is another aspect of this precious human rebirth. And so the other possibility is it's definite that we will die, but it's indefinite for how long this great situation will last in the human body. And the other thing that we'll come back to later is that there's no guarantee that we will be reborn in such a terrific situation in a human body, in a very privileged place where we've got enough food, drink, and so on. So these other lower realms that I've just mentioned, the animal is the one we can see, but even below that, there's the suffering realm. If we're born into that area, and we have huge amount of karma that we brought from other lives, not all positive, lots of negative karma, that might, unless we practice, purify, and control our mind now, we could end up in the next life. No guarantee that we're going to be in a comfortable situation like this again. It's said to be extremely rare, this human realm. So this helps, this is why we contemplate death, to sharpen our awareness of how lucky we are and how work needs to be done. And all we've got, there are actually 3 points which will, in a meditation on the certainty of death, 3 points that we'll come to, we'll do the practice next week, that death is certain, and nobody gets out of this situation alive, none of us, no matter how much practice next week, that death is certain, and nobody gets out of this situation alive, none of us, no matter how much money or power we've got. Second fact, the time of death is money or power we've got. Second fact, the time of death is uncertain. We can never predict when it could happen. There's no guarantee we'll live the estimated life expectancy, which is currently whatever it is, 80s. There's actually no, we know from the deaths of our friends already who have been younger than this, and not necessarily our friends, but can see every day in the paper or something, this tragic situation where a child has died or a young person, teenager, taken by a shark on the coast or something like this, where that nobody was, that they're defying those statistics of how long we're defying those statistics of how long we're told that we can expect to live. So uncertainty of death, certainty of death, uncertainty of time of death, and the third one, the only thing that can help us at the time of death is our mind and our practice. And that's fact. I mean, if there was no this is all there was, there's no possibility of an afterlife or rebirth. If everything just ends at the time of death, no point in doing any practice really, because it's all, we must just enjoy ourselves. But this this teaching, or this fact, it is a fact, is that the human mind that we've got, this fact, it is a fact, is that the human mind that we've got is composed of the gross mind, which is the one we're thinking now, we're using to see, hear, understand, rationalize. Under that is the subtle mind, and then under that is the very subtle mind. So these degrees of mind. So the subtle mind, first of all, the mind at the gross level is, by definition, and the Lamrim, clear and knowing. Clear meaning it's a invisible, something that we can't see physically. It's not like something we can touch, taste, smell, and so on. It's clear, and it's also knowing, or that's the translation, clear and knowing, but it just means that it can perceive things, it can notice things, it can observe things. A little bit like the idea of a lens, perfectly clear lens, you may not see it, but that lens, if it's things pass in front of it, that lens can apprehend, often use that word apprehend, what passes in front of it. So this is the concept of the knowing mind. And so this is different to the Western, very materialist view of the mind being the same as the brain. But in medical science, this very hardcore materialist view that the mind is the same as the brain is just recently being re-examined by many aware medical scientists, because they found it to be mapped. But the mapping just shows the effect of what that human person, the human mind, is experiencing. So if the person is anxious, then there'll be certain parts of the brain lighting up. If they're having pleasure, then different areas of the brain light up. So all that is doing is mapping the effect of the experiences of that human mind. So the Buddhist view is that the mind is. Human mind is dependent on the human brain to work, of course, but the brain is like a receptacle in which the human mind sits. Dependent on the human brain to work, of course, but the brain is like a receptacle. The human mind's definitely, if we think about, use reasoning and so on, then it becomes, we can use logic we can use our own experience of continuity of mind. We're going to do a practice at the end of tonight on the continuity of mind, where we can actually use part of our practice when we do meditation, how we can see one thought leading to the other. If we're aware of what's happening in the mind, we can be thinking about one thing that will lead to the next, thinking of what we're thinking this morning, how that led on to what went on in the mind at lunchtime, and what went on in the mind before this session, and now what's happening here. There's a continuity, a link. So this definition of mind, clear and knowing, goes with the idea of each moment of mind being caused by previous moment of mind. An infinite chain of causes. So this moment of mind traced back to moment of mind an hour ago, moment of mind yesterday, moment of mind last week, last month, moment of mind when we were born. So we'll do this meditation in more detail later, lead into it, but this continuity of mind is what is very important to help understand how the mind we've got now will lead us forward to the next moment, all the way up to the time of our death, and any imprints or actions of body, speech and mind that we do between now and the moment of death will have an effect. So positive actions will lead to positive experiences. Negative actions, body, speech, and mind, will lead to negative experiences. So it's all in the mind, how we think. So we'll come back to the idea. So what I've been getting at in that explanation is that there is karma involved. So the continuity of mind, going with that is the idea of seeds or imprints being put on the mind, a bit like the idea of a river that is passing, changing moment by moment, and there are things as different. The tributaries come into the river, and so different inputs are put on that river as it flows in. So the idea of karma is, which means action, translated action, means that everything we think, do, and say will have some sort of effect on this river of mind stream that has brought us to this present moment. So it's got the cause and effect aspect. So it's got the cause and effect has left imprints that will have an effect, and what we do from now on will have imprints in future of this life and future life. So that idea of karma. So in this particular module, we'll come back to karma as a separate module. There is that idea of how things. We'll come back to karma as a separate module. There is that idea of how things, how what we do can affect our experiences. Now, so this means that this contemplation of the certainty of death and uncertainty of time of death will help us, and that together with this idea of continuity of mind, help us to realize or to confirm that we need to maximize our time in the human body that we've got at the moment. So I've just got at the top of 2, page 2 there, how we can relate this to our own sort of view of our life. First question, we won't go through this in great deal. What are the thoughts and feelings that rise in relation to imagining our own death? So one thing that's interesting to contemplate here is whether we think we're old. Whether we think we're old and how that changes. I used to think, I'm 71 at the moment, and I used to think when I was a child, I think my grandmother died at about 71 or 2, as most people in that era, my grandparents' era, they lived to the early 70s. That was normal. And of course, as a child, I thought that was completely ancient. And even when I was sort of in my 40s, even probably 50, 70 seems incredibly old, much older than middle age. So this aspect of our view of how old we are is very interesting. Now that I'm 71, old is sort of 90s. It sort of keeps stretching it. So just stop and pause and think how your own sort of view of your age has changed, and what it is now, what it was in the past, and how it could change in the future. So what is important as we get older? Do we change our priority? Particularly if we become a Dharma student and start studying Buddhism. That usually does, if we take on board these teachings, then it does change our priorities and look for something that's going to be meaningful in terms of what's going to help us in the next life. So this level of practice is called the initial, it's Dharma practice when you're consciously trying to create the causes in this life for a good rebirth. That's called the initial level practice. So the initial level practitioner is aware of the certainty of death and also aware of karma, that actions lead to consequences. And so it's a kind of a fear and faith situation, the fear that if we don't behave or purify our mind, create positive influence or actions on our mind, avoid negative actions, which will have negative effect, then that's going to actually lead to bad outcomes, if not in this life, in future life. So that idea of fear and faith. So that's the basic level of practice, Dharma practice. Basic level of practice, Dharma practice, which is valid. But remember that the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism actually scaled up from that. Next level of practice is doing the practice, doing meditation practices and so on, following the teachings of the Buddha, so to purify all our negativities, and so we become liberated. So we all our negativities, and so we become liberated. So we negate any cause of having a future rebirth, because future rebirth will be, if it's uncontrolled rebirth, we're going to be in the suffering realm. So this is called the practice of the Hinayana, or the level of the Arhat, the person who's trying to be completely free of all causes of negative rebirth. And then the Mahayana practitioner wants to be completely free and liberated and enlightened with the benefit, in order to benefit other beings. It has this element of compassion. So that's ultimately our aim, to become a Mahayana practitioner. Okay, so time is slipping away. Now, so part of this meditation on certainty of death, uncertainty of time of death, is to have a full comprehension of impermanence. So this, often impermanence, it can be the physical world, or it could be non-physical. So that means what's going on in our mind. So physical transient existence, it exists everywhere. So impermanence is all phenomena in this life, and that includes physical and mental, is impermanent. So in this unenlightened, when we're not enlightened beings, we're subject to the effects of impermanence. So if we look at sort of how the earth, it doesn't seem to be changed. There's times where we don't see the impermanence of, say, the mountain ranges or the oceans. Although nowadays with climate change, it is much easier to appreciate impermanence of these massive phenomena, natural phenomena. The reason why we have this gross impermanence, macro impermanence, is because at the micro level, things are changing at the atomic, subatomic level. But that's why. So this is just a matter of physics. That if you think of the human body, the cells are reproducing, deteriorating, dying, and being replaced moment by moment. And as the body ages, the new cells are not the same as the cells they replace. They gradually make mistakes in their duplication at the level of chromosomes and so on. So we get deterioration of the skin, the wrinkle, the things wearing out. So these changes that we notice are happening very gradually at the micro level. Quite shocking. The shocking truth is that if we, say at the age of 20, suddenly became 70, the shock would possibly kill us from a heart attack if those subtle changes were speeded up. Because it's happening more slowly, we sort of accept it. But then, we accept it sometimes. Other people have cosmetic surgery and so on. So His Holiness Dalai Lama, interestingly, goes into great more detail about impermanence, very interesting types of impermanence. He just we won't go into too much detail, but things like how the coronavirus can change things that we took for granted, which is an excellent example to see how impermanence, how something physical like a disease can change all our way of life, all the things we took for granted before. The same with war, natural disasters, change, and so on, to women, how government systems have changed over the decades and millennia from feudal systems gradually developing into democracy from dictatorships into democracy, different views of marriage, sex, homosexuality, sexual abuse, how that's those values have changed just in the last few decades, and the idea of separation as change and impermanence, so that every meeting, from the short get-together to a marriage and relationship, must end with a separation. Organisations rising and falling and so on. So just to give you a reference here, if you look at Nick Rebush's transcript, there's a page 75, just make a little note there, have a look later. There's a series of verses which are from the Buddha's teaching sutras on impermanence, really beautiful poetic verses for a couple of pages there on page 75, which it's not just like beautiful poetry, but it actually is very powerful, very profound in expressing the certainty of impermanence. So just coming back now to this idea of rebirth now, and how come rebirth to me was when I was getting my first sort of taste of Buddhism in the 80s, it was something that to me was quite difficult and didn't fit with my cultural background. Excuse me. And so I just left it for later, and it's good to do that. Like there's some parts of the Lam-Rim or Buddhist teachings that just don't seem to fit with your state of mind at the moment. Go to things, leave it for later, rather than just completely reject it, because our mind not be able to actually understand some of these things. There may be nothing wrong with the actual teachings; it could be our mind. So this comes down to how can we know things. First of all, there's the obvious things that we can look at by observation. We can see. Good example is there's three ways of knowing things according to the Lam-Rim teaching. Our own experience, which takes in sensory awareness, what we see, what we hear, what we touch. There are those sources that we can rely on, say scientific knowledge, what experts say. In Buddhism, it could be what the Buddha taught, what our teacher, our guru taught, if we have a guru, what Lama Tsongkhapa taught, a great master who's recognized as being others to help accept something that we can't actually observe for ourselves. And the other way is to use logic. If this is the way that is, if this, then that. I was just thinking that, like, whether the earth is round or flat is probably a combination of all these, because we learned from school that the earth's round. Even probably our instinct is that it's flat, because it certainly looks like it. That's our sensory awareness. Then our teachers, people we rely on in science and so on, say actually it's round. So we have that should sort of alert us that these very well recognized authorities say so. And then there's a possibility that we can actually look and see the curvature of the can. If you're in a very vast sort of open space, looking out at the horizon of the ocean, you can sometimes see the curvature of the Earth. And if you're up in a plane, you can most definitely see the curvature of the Earth, and you can actually experience it. There's also things like pictures from outer space and so on. So these different ways of getting knowledge that is completely incredible from others, from various sources, from those three different sources or ways of gaining knowledge. So the same way with things like rebirth or karma, we can use a combination of things. So that's really what that half page there is on page 3. So scriptural authority would be the words of the Buddha, and keeping an open mind, and realize we're not enlightened beings, so it might seem to be something that we can't accept, but as we practice, as our mind softens and becomes more open, and we might accept something like the possibility or the logic of each cause has an effect, so each moment of mind caused by previous moment of mind. Things like understanding how physics works, if we're inclined to take that view. The quantum physics, the teaching, the knowledge of quantum physics is now coming into very much in line with the Buddhist idea of things having no particles, no essence, being empty of any inherent concrete existence. So, another way that helped me with reincarnation, there are these beings, human beings, who can remember past life. They're not necessarily, they could be holy beings, but the story of the reincarnation of great beings like His Holiness the Dalai Lama are very convincing and very well documented. But there are some research done. There's a writer called Ian Stevenson, a university professor, who has written a couple of books. I think it's on the reading list, not my reading list, but on, it could be Nick Rebush's reading list. Ian Stevenson, I think he's a professor at either Cornell or Harvard University, and he's written a couple of books. He's actually not a Buddhist, but he spent his life, he spent his life as an academic checking out these stories of people who can remember past lives. So he's traveled the world, particularly to places like India, where it seems to be more common phenomena for children to actually remember past life. And he's documented all his findings, and it's very, very obvious if we accept his research that there are people who have the ability to remember past lives, and if you look at the evidence is just irrefutable. So to do now in a minute or so on the continuity of mind. So this continuity of mind helps us to accept there's two benefits of meditating continuity of mind. To experience in our mental continuum the idea that mind is constantly changing, and each moment of mind is causing the next moment of mind, like a river. So this idea of not that unusual to see the idea of infinity in mathematics. It means that with each number there's another, or with each, not mathematics, it's not my field. So just in like space being infinite, that every place we go in space, there's another, it's possible to go further. So that's the idea of infinity. There's always another possibility of going further. So this, the Lama teachings on mind is that it has this idea of continuity, and there's no beginning. There's no point in which our mind suddenly started. And at the same time, there's no end to mind. So even if we do become enlightened in this or future life, just as the Buddha did, that mind, that enlightened mind, continues on. So mind without beginning or end. So so this means that part of this reasoning is that if a mind is non-physical, as against physical things. Now, physical things in the Lama teachings are caused by other physical things. So to be physical, there has to be a physical cause, a physical effect with a physical cause. Whereas the mind, which is non-physical, has to have a non-physical cause. So this is important because we're thinking about where our mind came from, and we're thinking the sperm and the ovum, the two cells of the parents, came together. So that's the beginning of the human body, our human body, and from then the multiplication of the cells, influenced by the chromosomes and the DNA, RNA, determined what sort of physical body, what shape and so on, sex and so on, caused by material causes. So where did this mind come from? If we accept that we have a mind and it's without beginning, could it have started from the parents? Did we get the parents' mind coming in with the two cells at the time of conception? So according to the Buddhist reasoning, it couldn't be possible, first of all, because we didn't actually get the minds of our parents. We know that we didn't get all their knowledge and their different propensities, their moods and so on. We know from that experience that we didn't. But the Buddhists would say, well, it's really possible because the mind is not caused by by the genes. It's caused by a previous moment of mind. So I think twins are really interesting because they help confirm the Buddhist view, identical twins particularly, that the genes, which identical twins have exactly identical genes, if there was a link between the mind and those genes, the two twins, or the two or triplets or whatever, they're identical, would have the same mind. And from the little bit I've known, and there's been some excellent documentaries concern taste and so on, but they're not the same. Sometimes they have quite different experiences and tastes and so on. And so the actual, even though they're very close, and the Buddhist explanation would be in previous lives, these two minds could have been, a husband and wife, or very, very close, very, very strongly attached to each other. And so they ended up in the same womb with the same genes, but the minds were never as one. Then the minds have never been identical because they came from different places. So there are instances of genes, of twins who have completely different tastes, completely different lifestyles, even though they're identical. If they, again, this shows that there's a difference between the origin of the mind and the origin of the bodies. Also, just a quick sidetrack. The placebo effect is very interesting as well to kind of confirm, not that I need convincing that the mind is different to the brain, but these operations have exactly the same, the fake operations have exactly the same effect in some areas of ailments and disease and so on, as if they had the actual operation. Power of the mind, power of the mind. So, in the particular practice of this meditation on continuity of mind, we start after short breathing meditation. We start contemplating how this moment of what we're thinking at the moment on the cushion in our meditation, how that series of thoughts, images, and so on were related to what we thought before the session started, say an hour ago. What we were thinking during the day, during our day that we experienced, thinking of the mind that we woke up with after the dream mind, after we slept, and we slowly go back to last week, last month, all the way back to childhood. We're asking ourselves the question, is there a connection between that mind of the childhood and the current mind? Is it the same? No, it's definitely, the child mind is definitely different, but there's a connection. And then we go back to the mind of conception and look at the different possibilities of where that mind came from. And then we come back to the present moment of mind, and we have this sort of sense of this continuous chain of mental events going into the future. From this morning, had breakfast, gradually started the day's activities, that mind moving into the lunchtime mind, the afternoon mind, current mind. Getting a sense of continuity, each moment of mind leading to the next moment of mind. Now coming to the waking up mind, perhaps we had a dream last night, the sleeping, dreaming mind being connected to the waking up mind. Sometimes the dreams and sleeps, experiences of mind can affect our waking mind, our mind during the day. That idea of the continuity of those experiences leading into last night's mind, the sleeping, dreaming mind, the waking up mind today, and today's mind. Continuity, each moment of mind leading to the next moment of mind. That sense of continuity, of flow, like a river. Maybe we had some experience, it was a good experience, a bad experience. Now we go back further, last year's mind, lockdown mind, this experience of having our freedom curtailed, COVID situation, how it affected our mind. Now that moment of mind, those moments last year, connected to these moments of mind now. Now we can go back, say, to our youth, when we were young, a few moments of mind in our childhood or teenagehood, our education. We can certain things happen, major events. Might have been very happy events, could be traumatic. Those moments had an effect on our mind. They made imprints on the mind. Yesterday's mind, the current mind. Let's go back now to the moment of birth. Most of us can't remember our birth, some can. That moment of mind, perception, the two cells of the parents brought the mind into the body. Remembering that physical cause has a physical effect. The body is physical. A mental phenomena like the mind can't be formed by a physical effect, physical cause. It must have a previous moment of mind. Did it come from nowhere? Didn't come from the parents, didn't come from nowhere. Think of the possibility that the mind of conception came from a previous moment of mind in the past life. A past life that we can't remember. If we accept the continuity of mind, each mind leading to the next, even though we can't remember our previous life, can we accept the possibility that our mind now came from a previous life? Using logic. Now coming back to the mind, meditating now in the room, current moment of mind. Notice the stream of consciousness, this mind, things, attention coming and going. Perhaps we're thinking about dinner, something in the future. What we're going to do for the rest of the night, what we're going to do tomorrow. How this moment of mind leads to the next moment of mind. If that's happening, then this moment of mind lead to the next moment of mind, right up to the moment when we separate the mind from the body. That's the moment of our death, when this mind leaves the body. So that contemplating that possibility that our mind now is continuous, and the possibility that we can affect our moment of mind now to affect our future mind. That means positive actions of body, speech, and mind, calming the mind, acts of compassion, patience, wisdom, our study of the Dharma, our meditation will put imprints on this mind, leading us to the future mind and our mind at the moment of death. The only thing that will help us at the time of death is our mind. So the conclusion is, while we have this human brain, as much as possible, thanks so much for being there. I've noticed that we seem to have lost our connection, according to the sign up on my screen. Hopefully you got most of the teaching, and hopefully you can continue on with the practice, meditation from the transcript. Hope to see you next week. Have a great week. All the best. Stay well.